having a good day today. Today we're going to continue talking a little bit about product, but take it off in a totally different direction. And we're going to look at marketing what isn't there. In other words, looking at services and people and places and ideas as opposed to the usual tangible products in a box on a shelf somewhere. We're going to look at what's a little bit different. So I would like you to think back to when we talked about what a product is. When we talked about different parts of a product, the core product, etc. Well, service fits into the same definition. We're still trying to satisfy a basic need or a basic desire that the customer has. So when we're talking about a service, it is a product. It's totally a product because we are satisfying the customer. It just is intangible, which makes it a little more difficult. So what we're going to do now is look at the service characteristics, the things that make a service different than the tangible goods we've been emphasizing up to this point. Everything we've talked about, the product, the brand, everything still applies, but we have some special characteristics as well. So let's go through those. The first we've already mentioned is the fact that it's intangible. When a product is intangible, that means you can't hold it, you can't feel it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it. There's not that concrete aspect to it that there is with other goods. People aren't comfortable with that. We like to look at things before we buy them. We like to try them on. We like to feel them. We like to just touch them. And we're a little uncomfortable with that intangibility aspect. So as a marketer, what we want to do if we're promoting a service is to emphasize the tangibility of it when we can. A couple examples. If you're thinking about insurance companies, can you tell me what insurance company this represents? You remember the saying, you're in good hands with Allstate? This is a tangible reference to a symbol, to a company. What about, again, thinking about insurance, that big old rock? Well, that's Prudential Insurance. These kinds of symbols are tangible clues to a company. When you go in to get a haircut, what do you see on the walls? Pictures of people with great-looking hair, usually. That's tangible clues. My brother, who's a lawyer, did some work for me a while back ago, and it seemed like every day I was getting something in the mail from him. Letter after letter, copy of this paper, a copy of that paper. I hate mail. And so I finally asked him to quit sending it to me, and he said, I'll be glad to. He said, I wish all my clients felt that way. He said, but most people don't think I'm doing anything if I don't give them paper. That paper is concrete proof of the service for them. And so we do like to have tangible clues if it is feasible, if it's something we can do. A second characteristic is the fact that services are perishable. You can't store a service. If we don't use it when it's available, it's gone forever. Think about a movie theater. You go into a movie theater. I went on a Friday afternoon last week. Go in, I think there were 7 of us in the movie. What about all those empty seats? Don't you wish, from their aspect, that they could just fold up those seats somewhere, put them in a closet, and next Saturday night, when they're filled to capacity, they bring out all these extra seats? You can't do that. Okay, if it's not used when it's available, it's gone. So this really becomes an issue of forecasting demand and making sure that you're available when the customer wants you to. It's a scheduling issue, a capacity issue. The third characteristic that we're going to look at regarding services is variability. Now, some services are provided by technology, for example, ATM machines, and so variability is not a big issue. But most services are provided by people. And if people are involved, there is going to be this variance. People are not machines. They can't do things the exact same way every single time. I've done this lecture more times than I can count, and every time there's something a little bit different. It doesn't mean it's better, it doesn't mean it's worse, it just means there's some differences. Think about if you've ever gone to see the same person or group in concert more than once. The concert probably was not identical, even if they had the same song set. There was differences. And this is that variability. So if we're selling a service, We recognize that that's there, that variability, but we want to try and reduce it, contain it as much as we can, so the customer is confident of the quality that they're going to receive. So this comes down to training, making sure we go over every aspect possible with our workers. In this situation, here's what you should do. Here's how you should handle it. It doesn't have to be totally scripted out, but we should address every issue we can think of so that common expectations are met each time. Okay, and the last of the characteristics we're going to look at is inseparability. Imagine you're going to a store and you want to buy a pen. You're standing in line to pay for that pen and you start watching the person behind the checkout counter. He's a large individual, maybe a couple 100 pounds overweight, has on a t-shirt though that seems to be a size medium, so it's really stretched across his belly and a little too much skin showing. His hair is extremely long, but it hasn't been washed in a long time. He turns around to get cigarettes for the person in front of you, and you notice fashionably his pants are sagging, but unfashionably there's no boxers underneath. You get the picture here. It's not very appealing, is it? Would you still buy that pen from that person? Yeah. That pen really has nothing to do with that individual. It's a tangible good. It's separate. But what if you went in to get a haircut and he was standing behind the chair? Or you go into a new dentist office and he walks out wearing his white medical jacket? You're out of there. Okay, you don't like that. Why? Because when it comes to service, we do not separate the service from the service provider. We don't do it mentally, and usually when we're getting the service provider's right there with us. Okay, there's not a separation. So there's a lot of key issues that come into play here in trying to address that. One of the key ones is training again. We want to make sure people know how to handle themselves in certain situations. We want to make sure they understand what our quality expectations are. In other words, we want them to speak in a socially acceptable manner to our clients, because to our clients, that provider is the service. That is why many places have dress codes, because they want to have a certain image associated with their service. Okay. So when we talk about services, there's a wide range of how much is a service and if there's a tangible good involved or not, and this goes under classification. We have a continuum. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but we have a continuum where we have complete service-oriented products where there's no goods involved whatsoever. For example, going to a play or getting attorney services. And on the other end of the continuum is when a tangible good is strongly involved. For example, mowing your yard or getting car repair done. And then there's a lot right in the middle too. Going to a restaurant, staying at a hotel. There's a mixture of tangible goods and the intangible as well. So we have to recognize that there is a continuum going on. But it still comes back to the basics that we talked about before, that there is a core product, a basic thing that they're trying to get, a basic benefit. And the service is going to try to augment that by adding other things to it. For example, Cirque du Soleil tickets, they can go for like $80. Okay, the core product is entertainment, the same as if you get to a movie. It may last as long as a movie too. So why are we willing to pay so much more, if we are, to go see Cirque du Soleil? Because of the augmented services that go with it. Because there's so much more than just sitting passively and watching celluloid in front of you. In Cirque du Soleil, you're seeing a lot of really unique activities and unbelievable skills and talents, and it's just an incredible experience. And so that's all part of the augmented, in addition to the core benefit of entertainment. Services actually have an easier time offering their product on the internet than tangible goods do, generally speaking. The reason goes back to the intangibility aspect. We are used to not touching and feeling this product because it is a service. So buying it over the internet isn't a big stretch at all. What industry has increased its sales more than any other over the internet, which is the primary industry on the internet? It's travel. Okay. That is a service. we're used to not touching and holding an airplane before we get our tickets. So buying the tickets online is nothing. It's not a jump at all for us. Okay. Another thing we need to consider is how do our customers evaluate the quality of our service? And we're going to look at 4 things here, but I'm going to speed through the first 3. They're talked about in your book. Search quality means that they're looking how hard is it for them to find you? Is it easy to locate you, easy to get to you? How much effort do they have to put in that process? That helps them to evaluate your quality. They'll also be looking at the experience itself. Was it something they enjoyed? An example is getting a manicure done. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I've gotten manicures basically from 2 different places. In both times, my nails looked fine when I was finished. But the first one I went to, the experience I didn't like at all because they're very strongly into acrylics. And the smell just really got to me in the place. I didn't like it at all. The second place does no acrylic work. They had a lot of soft music playing. It was very big on atmosphere. Nice, subtle smells with candles. It was just wonderful. That whole experience helped me evaluate the quality of the service, even though the finished product was almost identical. And then credence, how much do we believe? How much believability do we attach to the person providing it? For example, if you've ever gotten a car repaired, if you're like me, you know nothing about cars. You don't know if they did a good job fixing it or not, unless it stopped going bing, bing, bing. But you can't evaluate it because you don't have that experience. So I trust, hopefully, the mechanic to tell me, we fixed this problem solved, you shouldn't have any problems with this area for a long time. But, you know, sometimes they've told me, oh yeah, this is great, it's good as new. And I'm sitting here, this car's 7 years old, don't tell me it's good as new. I know it's not. I'm having a little problem believing the source of the information. So that can be an issue as well. One technique we use to try and measure how quality is being perceived is something called a gap analysis, where we're actually measuring the difference between what the customer experienced and what they expected to experience. And we can only do this through research, through questionnaires, through interviews, and we find out what is ideal, what would you really want, what did you experience, where were the problems, and we figure out where the gap is. And then we see what we can do to minimize that gap, see what we can do to make them closer together so the experience is more ideal for them. We can also do what's called a critical incident analysis. And that means we just pull out the problem areas. When something bad happens or when somebody's unhappy, we go in and try and figure out why and how it could be handled differently. Okay, now that's talking about services in general. Let's take a look at marketing some unusual type of intangible type products. First one is marketing people. Obviously, people are tangible. You can touch the person. But when we're talking about marketing a person, you're trying to get something else from them than the tangible aspect. Let's go through these 3 different approaches, and I'll try to give you examples as we go along. In this first approach, a pure selling approach, we present the person and say, here they are. You know, here's what they can do, here's their abilities, but here they are. Do you want them or not? An example with this would be a candidate for a job interview. You know, they go in and say, here's my ability, here's what I've been trained to do, here's my experience, my education. I know what your needs are. It's up to you if you want me or not. Okay? It's presented as is. We're not making any changes to this individual. As they work, certain changes will go through, but they can't make a change to adapt to each individual situation. Here's how they are. Does it fit with what you need or not? The second one, product improvement approach, is when we try to modify the person, try to make changes with the person so that they do fit your needs. An example of this is politicians. Politicians do a lot of different polls and studies and research to find out what people like and what they respond to. If they, believe it or not, politicians will dye their hair according to what focus groups say. Well, it just looks too old, so I don't think I can trust him. Or he just looks too young, he can't have enough experience for us to trust him. So in that case, they might even put a little gray in his hair. Believe it or not, they actually do that. But they're going to try and make changes not only to them physically, but also into the issues that they're heavily promoting, into their stance on certain issues, according to what their constituents say they want to know. So we're going to make changes to them to satisfy their target market. The third one is a market fulfillment approach. And this means we see a need in the market, something that's not being addressed, or there's room for competition, and we try and find the person to fit in there. This is what American Idol is all about. We need a new pop star. Okay, let's search and try and find somebody who we think can fit in there. That's what it is. The reality shows they've had on TV about making the band, and the one that Diddy or P. Diddy or whatever name he goes by this week, he has one as well where he's trying to put a band together. The whole idea is to fill a void that they see in the market. So they see the void, they try and find the person to fit. We can also market places. We see this all the time. Beautiful Ohio, Wander, Indiana. We're trying to get people to vacation here, to visit different areas that we offer. That's marketing of places. We can also market ideas, and you have all been exposed to this. Don't smoke, don't drink and drive, buckle up. These are all examples of trying to market an idea or a concept and get people to buy into that idea and think along those same terms. Okay, so in summary, from a marketing context, services, people, places, and ideas are all products. We don't look at them any different. We're still out there. We're going to promote them. We're going to price them. We're going to have to deal with some of the special characteristics and challenges they present, but they are products. And secondly, marketers need to understand the buying behaviors, the needs and wants, the quality expectations of their target market when purchasing these intangibles. We still have to satisfy the customer. That's first and foremost in our minds. So understanding what they want, what they're looking for, is paramount to any decisions that we make. That is it for this subject. I'll see you next time. Have a good day.